Every year, just before the Christmas holidays, my family would gather for one sacred day to partake in a ritual of preparing pasteles. The preparation of this beloved dish demanded a significant amount of time and effort, which evolved over time from an expected responsibility when I was younger to a sacrifice during my teenage years, and ultimately to a moment I cherished and looked forward to as an adult. Mom, the head cocinera, was in charge of all of the prep. The presence of a large box of green, yes, green bananas, not to be confused with plantains, yautía, calabaza, achiote seeds, banana leaves, pastel string, and more was a signal that the sacred day was upon us. She would rise early in the morning and start by cooking the pork, which would serve as the filling for the pasteles, preparing the achiote oil, which would add a red color and a subtle flavor, peeling the bananas, blanching the plantain leaves, and setting the table for the soon-to-be assembly line. When Dad, my sisters, and I arose, we would join her, cutting the banana leaves, parchment paper, and pastel string. All tasks which may seem trivial, but as we quickly learned from Dad, required the precision of a surgeon. The first step in the process was to create the masa. This was the most significant and dreaded part of the day because it involved grating what seemed like a never-ending heap of green bananas, yautía, and calabaza, which Mom had peeled, cut, and prepped. This dreaded task was left to my sisters and I. We took turns using the Rallador, a metal grater which was so much more to me than a stainless steel kitchen tool. I envisioned it was created by our Taino ancestors as an ancient weapon. The metal teeth were the sharpest of all things sharp, and the scraping sound emitted while it tore through the latest carcass was reminiscent of medieval times. I could see the Tainos in full armor wielding the ralladors, a dangerous beast in Spanish settlers to defend their land. But turns out it can be bought on Amazon. Armed with this weapon, my sisters and I would get to work grating each piece down, one by one, dreading the end when the tips of our fingers and even knuckles would become victims to the rallador too, resulting in scrapes, cuts, and the occasional escaped cry. Mom and Dad, however, never seemed concerned. In fact, Mom was relentless in her instruction, reminding us that we did not waste food in this house, and each piece was to be grated all the way down. Under no circumstances were any scraps to be left behind. On occasion, when we had the courage to point out that small drops of an unspoken ingredient were making their way into the mushy masa, Mom would shoot us an unsympathetic look and instruct us to get back to work. As the day progressed, my sisters and I would alternate between nursing our injuries and comparing our scars, like guerreras in the battlefield, boasting when one of us had managed to escape the jaws of the rallador, if even a few times. After all, there was a numbness that set in, and maybe it wasn't all that bad. Over the years, this annual ritual included abuela and eventually our younger siblings, who were put to the task of using the rallador, which us girls knew was the lowest task. Once they arrived to the assembly line, we were promoted. But I was not so far removed from the dangers of the rallador, nor had I forgotten about the scars and calluses which would follow in the ensuing days. I was, in fact, sympathetic to the trauma which would come from my younger siblings' labor. Yet, a guerrera can only become a warrior after surviving battle, so between their complaints and cries, I reminded them to grate each piece all the way down.